Everyone, this is Fede Master Jose Vargas, and today I wanted to go over how to solve a chess puzzle. So, chess revolves a lot around tactics. It's one of the most important parts of the game, and it's a necessity to have a sharp tactical eye in order to be a good chess player. There's this famous quote by Tartakower, I believe, that chess is 99% tactics. Now, whether that may be precisely accurate or not, the truth is that tactics are vital for any chess player of any caliber, especially up until I'd say maybe 2000 rating. Chess tactics are the most important thing. So I wanted to go over how to solve a chess puzzle, and so the sort of the mental steps you need to take. So I thought we could go here to Lead Chess Puzzles and solve some. Now they have this. It says there the puzzle rating is 1700, but they have this useful little sliding bar where we can basically choose the difficulty of the puzzles. So it goes from easiest to hardest. So I figured we could solve one of each, and sort of keep leveling them up, and let's see how far we can go. So in this position, it's black to move. So basically, there are three main steps that I take and that you should take when you're solving a chess puzzle. First of all, you're looking for checks, because checks are usually the most forcing moves, since they immediately force your opponent to either move the king or take the piece. They force your opponent to do something about the check. So the first moves I'm considering are rook check or some queen check. Obviously, the queen checks here don't mean anything, so let's rule them out. So we're left with this rook check. And so we should think, what does this check give me? You shouldn't just play a check because you see one, as many beginners do. You should try to understand if that move, then in this case that check, actually helps you. So if I check him here, so he either has to move the king, which he cannot do because my king is cutting off the escape squares, or he has to take my rook, which he cannot do because nothing sees the rook there, no piece sees the rook, or he has to interpose. So his knight cannot interpose, nor can the rook, so the queen is the only piece that can interpose, but it's not protected, so I can take it, and then there are no pieces left to interpose or take my rook, and that would be checkmate.
Check. Check.
So there you go, a checkmate. So this one wasn't too hard, but again, we're gonna level up. So one more on the easiest category. It's white to move. So first of all, I'm thinking about checks. This check on f6, he can just take. There's this check on e7, which comes with an attack on the king and the queen. So that would be our solution.
Check.
Right, now let's move on to easier, which should be a little bit harder. So again, the first thing I'm looking for are checks. Now in this position, there's quite a lot of checks. And obviously, as you become a better chess player and as you improve in puzzles and puzzle difficulty, there's got to be more options and more options that you have to calculate. So there's one check, two, three checks. And all of them look very dangerous because the white king is almost getting mated. So if bishop takes bishop, I think queen takes just holds for white, because we don't have enough pieces to attack him, and our queen actually has no good checks there. If pawn check, they can probably move back to h3, or yeah, to h3 looks good. So the key check here is queen g5 check, followed by bishop takes bishop, which comes with a very important double check. If we back up one move, it comes with a double check. So once they take, we can take their queen. As you can see, this one was a little bit more elaborate. A little bit of a harder puzzle. We had more options.
Check.
Okay, let's do one more on the easier. Okay, so this one is a complete change of ideas and patterns. So first of all, we'll look for checks, since it's a puzzle. Now rook b8 check, they can move the king, And clearly the theme here is not about checkmating the black king, moreover about our pawn promoting. So if we check king f7, c6, they have rook c2, and they stop us from going c7. They stop us from going c7, and if you can imagine that position with the check, king f7, rook c2, c6, rook c2, we would have to protect the pawn with rook c8 or rook b6, but then we would be stuck because our pawn wouldn't be able to queen. I'll show you that in a couple of seconds. So if it's not checked, the second step we look at, the second thing we look out for are captures. So the only legal capture here for white is rook takes pawn. That is clearly not the move. And the final thing we look for in tactical positions are threats. So can we create a meaningful threat that wins us something or forces them to do something they don't want to do? So what kind of threats are we looking for? Well, in this position, as I've mentioned, we're looking to queen this pawn. There's no mate threats. Our king is way too far away. By exclusion, I mean these pawns are not going to do anything for the moment. Our rook cannot attack anything useful, so the move must be c6. And the point of why this works is that this king is always cut off. So after rook c2, which is basically the only intent black has, again, there's no checks, no captures, so we go c7, and they go king f8, and now we have this check in order to support the queen square. This one again, this one was much more elaborate. The point here, as I was saying, first of all, if we check king f7, rook c2, c6, rook c2, we would have to either go rook c8 to protect the pawn or rook b6. Now, if rook c8, you can see after c7 we're stuck. We're not going to be able to queen. And if rook b6, the pawn just can't push. Something like a5 should just hold for black. So c6 is the correct option, and here the point again is that the black king is cut off. So if the black king moves away now to avoid this check, we have queening with check, a nice move. And if they don't do anything, like in the puzzle, king f8, we have this check in order to support the pawn. Now this is a very, very common theme in endings, this pattern. And tactical vision is a lot, I would say maybe like 95% about pattern recognition. So if you've seen a theme before, you need to really, focus on memorizing it, that photographic memory, so you don't forget it. And then when it'll appear on the board, you'll, know what the solution is. So now let's go to the normal difficulty. It's again black to move. So the first thing we look for are checks. Now there's two checks which hang the queen, so that doesn't look good. Second of all, captures. So we can take their queen, which looks very appetizing. Very appetizing. There's also a lot of captures since this queen is hanging. But if you take anything for the moment, I believe they can take our rook with check and then take the queen in order to avoid losing material. So I think the move, it seems to me like it's a little bit too simple, but I believe it's just taking the queen. After rook takes, the only thing we have to watch out for is that this pawn is pinned. So we have to stay with the c pawn, but we're just a rook up. So let's do another normal, because this one is a little bit too easy. So bishop f4 check. This is a very dangerous position for white. So there's no checks because they're checking us. So it has to be a capture. Now, what kind of capture? Now, the automatic capture would be bishop takes bishop. That looks like, the simplest. But then after knight takes bishop, what did we win, right? So if we look at that position, tactics are a lot about evaluating positions in your mind. That's the hardest part, visualizing the position, then evaluating it. Once we trade bishops on f4, what are we actually winning? Nothing. Because the queen just protects the knight, our king is in the center, and black is probably a couple pawns up. And that's probably even a better position for black. Now the move here, if it's not that capture, it's either creating a threat, which doesn't look possible because our king is under check and there's no moves that can do that. So we only have another capture. And again, we should go over all our options. Even if you think guild players don't do that, they do that, but really fast. So we always have to rule out every option. And so if it's not this capture, what about rook takes? Now rook takes seems to hang a rook, but the theme here is that the black queen is also on prise. So once we take that bishop, if they can't take back with a knight, they can't take with a queen because it's protected. So they have to move back, but then we have just won this bishop on f4, right? So they take and we take and we win the queen. If they move back, we just move our rook back. We don't allow them to take and we just want a piece. So that was just a solution there. Let's jump to harder difficulty. Here it's black to move. All right. So we're down a rook and an exchange. So we have to be very fast. So the first thing we look for are checks. Now this white king looks very much cornered. So maybe we can try to mate him. So let's go over h6 check. h6 check, they have two moves, either king h4 or king f6. Again, we have to look at all alternatives. Check, king h4. If king h4, there would be bishop e7 mate, because the king there has no escape squares. But the problem is, after h6 check, they have king to f6. And now the king next, unavoidably, is coming to e6. There's no piece that can stop that. And that means that the king's just getting away. Even if you take the rook, we're still a rook down, or an exchange down. So we can't let the king get away. So what other options do we have? Knight f7 check, again king f6, and next king e6. So we have to look at the last option we have, which is the bishop check. Then we cut off this key f6 square. The king must go to h6, and then we have another forcing move, knight f7 with mate. All right, another harder. Okay, this one seems a little bit more difficult. Okay, so first of all, we look for checks. Now, there's not even a legal check here. Second of all, captures. If not, we go to threats. But what about the captures? So if knight takes knight, there seems to be pawn takes knight. Well, first of all, let's see. Knight takes knight, queen takes knight would be the obvious, the automatic recapture. But then there's knight e5. Not too easy to visualize, but knight e5. The rook attacks the queen, and the knight attacks the bishop. And you can see the queen actually cannot create a meaningful threat, nor can it protect the bishop on d7. So next, we are just going to win the bishop. Now the problem is, again, this is why tactics are so hard. We have to look at all the options. If knight takes, there is pawn takes. And then, if knight e5 with the same fork, then there should be this move, queen e6. So pinning our knight to the queen, so we cannot take the bishop because they take our queen. And then we are left without a good threat or a good move. Now the key difference here is that we go knight e5 on the first move. And so we have this double attack. So after they move their queen, doesn't matter where, but I calculated that it doesn't matter where. I didn't just say that randomly. Now we cannot take the bishop because they actually created a very, well, we would have to look at knight takes knight first of all, but they actually created a very sneaky threat here with knight g3 check, which is a triple check, and the pawn is pinned to the king. So that would win our queen. So what we have to do here is take their knight first, attacking their queen. Even if it wasn't attacking the queen, it would work. But we take the knight first, And only then we got rid of the piece that was attacking g3, we got rid of our knight that was hanging, and now I can take the bishop and go up a full bishop. So again, this one was not already that easy at all. Now let's move on to the hardest category. So it's white to move. So the first thing we'll look for, checks. There's a couple checks. Well, rook d8, first of all, just hangs the rook for no reason. Bishop h6 hangs the bishop. And there's bishop takes knight, but I believe after queen takes, we have nothing. So the second thing we look for are captures. We already looked at this one. The next one is bishop takes pawn on b7. Now that looks pretty good. Yes, that does look pretty good because we're attacking this bishop, this rook, and very importantly, the rook opens up to attack the bishop on b6. So let's go on with that variation. If bishop takes bishop, what can they do? So we're attacking their rook. They either take our bishop or they move their rook. Now, if rook b8, for example, we can take on b6. And the position is still messy. But that should be good for us. Yeah, that should be good for us. Bishop takes bishop, rook b8 takes. There is this knight d5 move, which I'm sort of trying to calculate, but I believe that's actually not trivial. Okay, this one is going to require a little bit more time. So bishop takes bishop, rook b8. So if you take their knight first to remove that problem, they can take the queen. That's one of the problems. And then the queen is attacking our bishop. So after we take on b6, they can take on b7. Now again, this is not hard, not easy to visualize at all. But that's just how chess puzzles are. Bishop takes pawn, rook b8. We take their bishop, knight d5 is the problem. And suddenly all the pieces open up to our bishop on b7. Oh, there might be... Oh, there's a very nice sequence there. If I'm not mistaken. I believe there's a very nice sequence there. Wow, I'm amazed by how hard this puzzle is, but okay. Bishop takes pawn, rook b8, bishop, rook takes b6, knight d5. I believe there's bishop takes knight, and after rook takes bishop, I'll show this in the analysis. And after rook takes bishop, there's queen d4. Beautiful move, attacking both rooks, and black cannot defend both at the same time. So that should be winning because this king is so weak in the end. Okay, so that's just step one. Bishop takes bishop, pawn, excuse me. Rook a7. Okay, rook a7 seems simpler. We can take on b6 then. And by the way, I didn't mention this yet, but I believe trading everything on b7 should be very close to winning for white, because there is because black's king is so weak, and this pawn is weak. Our bishop is a monster. So if they take, the last option is to take on b7, but then we take the queen with a double attack again. And again, we're gonna take the bishop, and even though material balance is restored, their king is too weak. So I believe that is the answer. All right, we take, and this was their most tenacious approach apparently. Now I want to analyze this one. Can I analyze it? Yeah, right here. No, I just have to redo the puzzle. Can I analyze this? Oh yeah, I can analyze it straight away, of course. So yeah, there was a lot of variations to calculate here. So rook b8, what I was saying is after it takes on b6, knight d5. So suddenly they have three pieces attacking this, and they cut off our queen from protecting the bishop. So if we move the rook back, they just take our bishop. But we might even have queen e5 straight away, but I believe bishop takes pawn. is very good. Now, if they take back, we have this check, and then take the rook. So if they take our rook, then we have queen d4, I believe. This appears to be the best way to continue. And then let's say they take our bishop. We take, well, I assume on h8. None of this is very easy.
Check.
And in general, again, material balance is restored, but in general, black is losing because their king is so weak and all the pawn structure around it is terrible. So this is just one of the variations. Again, we have to consider everything. Rook b8, rook a7, bishop takes bishop, and all the sidelines that come with that. But guys, with this puzzle, that's gonna wrap it up for today's video on how to solve a chess puzzle. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have any doubts about the steps, the 3 steps, again, remember, first look for checks, then captures, then create threats. Feel free to put them in the comments below. I'll answer any of your questions. And yeah, guys, that's all for today. Peace out.